It is time for This Week in the Lakeville Journal. Time to bring in Cynthia Hoswender and Janet Manko. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I noticed something, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, okay? When I get the Lakeville Journal digitally. When I opened up the paper digitally, for some reason it looked a little. Did you change formatting at all, or work on the website yet, or anything like that?
Well, if you mean did we redesign things? Not really, no.
For some reason it looked different to me, but then again, like I said, that's why I wanted to ask, because
You can blame Mercury.
it's me.
Well, it does look a little different each week, depending on the stories. Sometimes we'll play with how the pages look, but
Nothing to signify at this moment.
no, nothing to say. Oh, we did a redesign. Or
Okay.
we're rebranding or something.
Yeah.
This is a word we hear a lot now, but our brand is pretty settled, I guess. I don't know.
I would think so after a lot of
This is one of the benefits of being around for a long, long time is that
yes.
your brand should be settled.
Yeah, since 1897, I would think you don't need to rebrand. I think your brand's pretty well established.
So to some people, we're brand new too.
Yeah,
so
that's right. People
good.
just moving into the area.
That's good.
All right. So at the top of the page of the paper, the front page of the paper, a couple of big stories. First of all, area officials once again speaking out with concern and you can against the obstetrics plan going on at the hospital.
So this is a meeting of the Northwest COG, which is the first selectman of 21 area towns. And it's often an opportunity for people to come when they want to speak widely to town officials and make sure that their opinions are known. And the doctors, who generally are pretty private and don't necessarily in a public format speak their opinions about administration at the hospital, have been pretty outspoken about this. We did interview Michael Parker a couple weeks ago, who said that 25 out of the 26 doctors still affiliated with Sharon Hospital had opposed their new plans, and not just obstetrics, but also the limiting of the surgery hours and the intensive care unit. So, I guess we can say they have spoken, and there's some citizens that are speaking out as well, but I think that when the doctors all speak out against a plan, it really, they're inside, they actually know what works and what doesn't, and I think it's a little chilling when you hear them all sort of saying this is not a good thing.
And I think they can carry some weight when the state starts to listen. And if you get representatives of most of the area towns, and you also get people and doctors, I think that they will listen. And New Vance will have to make a real strong presentation to do what they want to do. But read Patrick Sullivan's story on this. Right next to that is the small plane crash that happened in North Canaan, and thank God the way that plane crashed, because I used to fly, folks. He got out alive. He was injured, but there it was by the really absolute luck.
I guess he wasn't that high yet, and to me, as a non-pilot, astonishing that he was flying in a plane that had been built from a kit. Like, I don't even like it when people fix their own brakes in their houses, but to go up in an airplane you built yourself. But, there you go. People are capable of doing it, and I guess this particular kit model is a very popular one. But took off crashed right after takeoff in North Canaan. A lot of people didn't realize that there was an airport there, and actually the airport recently changed hands. It was just sold. But I think that that John Harney was the agent who sold the property, and he said it was not the owner of the airport who had crashed. Right. He thinks it was a local person, but we wish him well. And somebody had been complaining to me that there's been a lot more air traffic lately, so I'm not sure what that's about or if it's related.
All right. Well, like I said, I got my solo pilot's license, and the thing that I was taught by my instructor, Hank Kramer, was regardless when you hear of airplane crashes and big airplanes, the most dangerous time for airplanes are when you take off and when you land. Those are by far the most dangerous time when you're piloting in an airplane. And I did it for 2 years. So traffic reporting. A lot of left-hand turns, I'll tell you guys. A lot of left-hand turns. Yeah. All right. Now, I want to go down to the story under your Sharon Hospital story, and that is concerns in Sharon about too many visitors to the rivers and trails. And this is something that we have, it's been building over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a big deal in all of our area towns, and River Road is this beautiful little, very small, quiet road, and there's a lot of issues going on in Sharon right now about people overusing these roads that are not designed for heavy traffic. I just got off the phone with another person who's super concerned about Hilltop Road, which again it's just a town road. It's not a rural minor collector, and so these roads don't get the same level of maintenance that larger roads get, that people use as thoroughfares. So the property owners on River Road all came together and did a petition. There's something very complex going on. We don't completely know what's happening, but there's a parcel of property at the very end of this small road that the state is helping the Sharon Land Trust buy. And, of course, everybody is very pro-conservation in all situations, and this is a beautiful road. But there's already an Appalachian Trail entrance on the road, but there's very limited parking. So I went down there and took a photo, and you can see, as in Falls Village at the Great Falls, they've got those giant rocks placed along the side of the road to try and keep people from parking. There's a little farm right next to the Appalachian Trail access point with some cows, and so there's no parking signs everywhere, but people on the road have been saying, people come up and they park in front of the driveways, and they park along the side of the road. It makes it hard to get in and out. And, of course, what we hear in Falls Village all the time is the emergency vehicles can't get through. So if somebody has a heart attack at the end of the road, it slows down, or if there's a fire, it slows down the emergency vehicles to get there. So they're coming to the town, and they're saying, we just want to know what's going on there. And we were a little surprised that the answer wasn't an immediate, like, oh, sorry, here's what's going on. We got we had reached out to the Sharon Land Trust. We're hoping that they will talk to us about what's going on, but we didn't get a super detailed response in our first effort.
All right, your story was great. Once again, the Women's Support Services, they moved their domestic violence vigil around. This year, you covered at Lawrence Field Pavilion in North Canaan.
That's right. The month of October is Domestic Violence Month, and they're doing wonderful work there at Women's Support Services for a very sad job.
Now we're going to split over and go to Millerton. And I think this is a very progressive and smart move. I know taxpayers aren't going to like it, but this is a story by Whitney Joseph and you, Cynthia, out of the town of Northeast. The 58% fire tax increase, they are planning in advance to put money away to save taxpayers as much money as they can. Because sooner or later they're going to need a paid fire company if things keep going down the same road.
Right, and this is something, we picked this up in Lakeville because it's so much of an issue for all our area towns. So we already have, like in North Canaan, there's a professional ambulance. That doesn't mean that there aren't still volunteers. It just means that there's a paid professional who's on call all the time at that ambulance garage. So they're looking for the same thing at the fire department there. But it's just like with the resident trooper. You can't just say, like, oh, well, live next door or, live at your house and get up in the middle of the night like the rest of us do. They actually have to create a facility there that meets certain minimum standards. So they were very open with Whitney. Actually, this is really Whitney's story. All I did was just add in a little bit of regional explainer. But they were very open with Whitney about their giving gradual tax increases, setting the money aside so they can start working on these upgrades to the firehouse rather than give them one big increase at the time. And as we get inside, you'll see there's the story about the Sharon Community Hall. Definitely, the cost of building stuff always goes up, but especially right now.
Yeah, it's such a smart move. Now, I looked last night online at the story, all the hubbub in Falls Village about the housing, all the back and forth, and it got very, very bitter. Well, the grant was denied for a housing trust, but they'll be back again with another grant. But what I'm afraid is when they go back for another grant, the bitterness will start all over again. And I hope it doesn't.
I think the bitterness is not so much about the grant, but about the proposal. And then somebody looked very carefully at the grant contract. I'm sure grant. These things are very, very detailed and complex. So there got to be like a mini side fight over it. But so yes, they did not get the grant, but that doesn't mean that they won't get the grant in another year.
So that's exactly right. Because there's so many people competing for these grants. There's so many towns that have different things that they compete for it. Well, speaking about grants, let's go to the Housatonic Youth Service Bureau. They've got a substance abuse prevention grant.
Right, and they seem to have new leadership there. They've been sort of quiet for a while, so we're looking forward to having reinvigorated Youth Service Bureau here. Very important organization.
Nice picture of the trooper and Sharon. Second time met with Sharon residents about different things, and the discussion of hiring a resident trooper is starting to surface again.
Right, and as you and I know, this is an ongoing conversation. I think a lot of people in Sharon may not necessarily know this, but it's quite expensive. But there's also a new commander at Troop E. I actually hadn't realized that Lieutenant Baldwin was gone. It's Lieutenant Alan Bisson, who I think was maybe the Master Sergeant there for a couple of years, but came out. And again, there's a lot of concern in Sharon right now. I don't know if it's more because there are new people coming to the area. The person I just spoke to, I think, has been here for 20 or 30 years. But they're concerned that people are driving really fast, which is a problem throughout the northwest corner, and we all do it without realizing it. But they're wondering if a resident state trooper can help with some of these issues. Plus, we've got all these people coming in from the cities and stealing cars, and so there's a little explanation of how that works.
All right, it's funny. I'm old enough to remember when Sharon did have its own constable force, and a lot of towns had it. But their equipment would, as the state police improved their equipment, their communications equipment wouldn't interact and join in. All the constables. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, I think I was chased by a couple of them as well.
I bet you were.
Once again, you can get a great view of Falls Village from Eric Vedden and all his videos that he has done and continues to do throughout Falls Village.
With all these new people moving to the area, we sometimes worry that people will forget the wonderful historic qualities that make this area so special. And Eric Vedden is doing a beautiful job. I think he's got his 25th video out where he just interviews local people who have been here for a long time and really creates this beautiful image of who Falls Village is in all of its complexity.
All right, and the story you just mentioned when we were talking on the front page, the cost of materials and building supplies, and actually getting building supplies, brings a real urgency if the town wants to do something with that building.
Right, which they've been talking about for a long time. And having been in that building, which used to be fairly active for, for scout events and older people events, and especially as a place for kids to go after school. So it does need some interior work. Matt Meddy, the rec director, is trying to get them to move on it a little more quickly, noting it gets more expensive every year.
And a change in the head of pupil services at Region 1.
And right, Carl Gross is retired. Martha Schweikert is stepping up. Both of them had been there for quite a long time. Martha, I think, was even there under the really wonderful Teresa Terry. Very important work that these people do to help children who need extra support. And Rebecca Gashel-Clark leaving Salisbury Central School, joining Pupil Services.
All right, and a story by you, Cynthia, on Long Pond Cellars. That hearing has been continued to December 13th. Once again, if it has to do with land and property and planning and zoning, these things get very, very busy right away.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a lot of activism going on around right now about some of these zoning things, and people really kind of stepping up and saying, wait a minute, this is a residential neighborhood. This has to stop. And so I think there had been concern because there's already a wedding venue on the Sharon-Salisbury line, and some of these property owners are worried that they're going to be in the middle sandwich between two wedding venues and in what is a fairly quiet part of Salisbury. So a very long, complicated 2-hour hearing just on this particular property will be continued to December 13th.
And it is it is true, by the way, Cynthia, the way that the landscape is with the one up high on one side and another on the other side, that it's kind of like a valley there, and it does channel and increase sound. It really does.
Yeah, and it gets pretty, people who are here just for their event don't necessarily think like, oh, there's the neighbors, we better be quiet. And I want to point out also on the obits page, Heather Kaler passed away. Her parents, Ann and Stuart Hoskins, had been the editors and owners for many years. And, of course, her husband, Michael, had converted what is now the Stagecoach Inn into an English-style pub many years ago. And Michael, of course, writes poetry for us. And
I want to pass along Ted Davis. They're finally having a memorial service for Ted at the Lakeville Town Grove on Sunday from 11 till 3, a long-time moving force in Salisbury Volunteer Ambulance.
Right, and read about him in our Discover Salisbury, which is still on newsstands. Amazing guy.
Yeah. All right. And I love the picture. It says words, Cynthia, that you took about the rocks along River Road.
Oh, good. Yeah, and also how cracked and bumpy the road is. It's not really designed for the kind of heavy traffic it's getting.
No. All right, let's go to the editorial page. Janet, safe driving needs to be a goal for all.
Right. I don't know if many listeners have had this experience where it just seems as if people are more distracted than ever while they're driving and or speeding more. And so, we can look at all the reasons for that and consider that being cooped up for pretty much for about a year at least, and having all kinds of things happen in our lives during the pandemic, which is, of course, still ongoing, that, it has an effect on it. But this is a good week to think about it because this is the week for National Teen Driver Safety to be commemorated and thought about. And so we have that, and we also have a column by Bob Green about auto safety, and he is the expert, especially on teen driving, but general driving. And we're happy to have that for this week, and this is what we're thinking about. By all means, let us know if you've had any experiences with driving this year that you wish could be improved.
And I'm going to go to turning back the pages because this is still a current story. 25 years ago, an effort by Sprint Spectrum LP to blanket the county with wireless communications, catching the attention of local zoning officials. 25 years ago this started.
Right. And, right, still not great around here, but yeah.
No, but that's the great thing about you can look back at stories in newspapers and see the evolution of a story, and this evolution with cell phone towers basically started 25, 30 years ago. Hard to believe, but it's true, and so I love that column. That column, it just brings back. If you're new to this area, it's a great way to learn things about the area.
Yeah. It really is. And Norma Bosworth, really fine. She is from the area, knows a lot of the names of the folks, and many of the names are the same as you go back 60 or 100 years. But it's fascinating to see what the evolution has been of some of the issues we deal with now.
And what's amazing is, if you want to talk about evolution or progress, you better put those in quotes around cable and whatnot, because there are still really interesting issues that are a factor now that were the same then.
And we won't go over them all, but there's lots of letters, once again, political letters of support and non-support. But once again, Peter Rail, Dr. Rail, the changes at the hospital are not viable.
Right, and so many people from the area know Dr. Rail. As he says, he was a general surgeon at the hospital, and since, he's been associated with the hospital for 55 years, and first as a general surgeon and then as a wound care doctor since 2011. So certainly, knows the ins and outs of how care is given at Sharon Hospital. So do read his letter. And
now I have to butt in here. I actually burst out laughing out loud last night, when I saw Peter Steiner's cartoon will be transitioning from a not-for-profit model to a not-for-everybody model. So that makes me laugh right now.
Oh, good. I'll tell you, and it's not easy to do that, is it? This is a serious topic. Peter knows that as well as any of us, better than any of us. And so, to find a way to make us laugh about it. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, editorial commenting through cartoons and humor is a great way to hit it home. But I really did. I just burst out laughing at my home last night. I think my dog and cats are wondering what was going on. All right. I want to go up to the top. From Brooklyn to Boston, a baseball odyssey.
That's right. I do love it when Dick Ollis writes about baseball because he is a really big fan, as am I, and his memory goes back quite far. So he talks about the Brooklyn Dodgers and how he, once the Dodgers moved from Brooklyn, where did they go again? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we know where they went.
And there are still people who just hold that against them.
Oh, there are. And not only people that were alive at their time, but family members that hold it against them as well.
That's right. Yeah, they couldn't, and, it's funny. Dick talks about this. You couldn't just automatically become a Mets fan then when the Mets showed up.
No.
It was just not possible. Not possible to become a Yankees fan, so... You can read it to find out where he went. You probably know, but it's a great way to also lighten up a little bit in this serious time.
Now we'll go back to what your editorial was. Bob Green has a guest commentary about auto safety.
And Bob has written for us, doing commentary at different times, and I hope he'll continue to as he has time to, because boy, he has deep knowledge of this and. People will know him from Survive the Drive, which he founded in 2002, and he's been on driver safety for years. He did so many presentations for high schools and different organizations to reach teens, to let them know how important it is just to pay attention while you're on the road. And so he's the master of this and gives us lots of good information. And I think it was Cynthia who said after reading the statistics he has in here, it really does make you think twice about what you're doing on the road.
All right. Once again, what I really like, and I think what everybody appreciates, and we're starting to see them, are the letters for the candidates. So you can't do any more endorsements, but people can get out there and do their own endorsements.
Exactly, and we are encouraging that from everybody. We will get every letter in that we can, it's the season. I hope that people come out and vote. It's always hard to get people to come out for local elections if there's not something else on the ballot that's national, that's giving them the opportunity to make their voices heard that way. But boy, it's really important to have your voice heard locally. And our local government, I think, local government across the United States might be the most functional government we have. So do get involved.
All right, let us go to Compass. Cynthia, the ball is yours for about 2 minutes.
Okay, so very broadly, Compass really is not just arts, it's arts, entertainment, and lifestyle. And so home care, we have a story by John Torsiello about getting your chimney clean. Very important to do at this time of year. We have some a show right now at Standard Space, which is always an interesting place, very thoughtful, interesting curated shows. Crescendo, always doing something interesting. They've got their concert coming up 29th and 30th. It's Baroque. And Catherine Boughton is such an interesting person, knows so much about the history of our region, grew up here, used to work at the Lakeville Journal, and is the head of the History Center, and has done a curated art show where not only talks about just the art itself, but how each piece of art and each painter helps define who our community was in the 20th century. Pamela Peters, always doing interesting work, traveling now with my dentist, Martin Nuia, and they go to the Arctic, or is the Antarctic? I can never. The Arctic, the one in the north.
Wherever it's cold, they go.
Yeah, they go up there, and they've got great gear. And she's been taking these beautiful photos that are on display now in what used to be the Town Hall Art Gallery in Sharon, and has reopened again, curated by Zelina Blagden. And then wild mushrooms, lots of them around. People are posting photos on Instagram. Do not eat anything. Do not touch anything unless you really, really know or are with a person who does really know. That's our compass.
Yeah, and we all learned that lesson a couple of years ago. It wasn't mushrooms, but we all learned our lesson with the ramps from a while ago. Once again, the Lakeville Journal is available via paper form, of course, the Lakeville Journal and the Millerton News at area locations. Also online, tricornernews.com. And how's your first segment going into as a nonprofit, Janet? Going smoothly?
Well, it's always hard to tell, isn't it? We're still pulling together loose ends, and I have a feeling it's going to be like this for a while, but we're very grateful to have the opportunity to figure this out.
Yeah, it took me about a year really to figure 80% of the things out, and then the rest come along naturally.
I believe that for sure.
Well, that's the Lakeville Journal and Millerton News. Guys, we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you so much.
Take care. The Lakeville Journal and Millerton News, both available at tricornernews.com.